The Nintendo Switch has become a haven for some fantastic Japanese RPGs, and to be able to take them on the go makes them even better. However, there are still several and significant JRPGs that haven't hit the Nintendo Switch yet, and that's what we're going to be covering in today's video. Specifically, 10 big Japanese RPGs that need to come to the Nintendo Switch at some point. Let's cut all the chatter and get right into this. First up, we have The Legend of Heroes Trails of the Cold Steel. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know how high I am on this franchise. Legend of Heroes is a terrific franchise, and it gets even better with Trails of the Cold Steel. Now, Trails of the Cold Steel is a 4-part franchise, and it's hit so many platforms. It's on PS3, PS Vita, PC, and it's coming to the PlayStation 4, but it has yet to be announced for the Nintendo Switch. However, I would love to see it make its way over to the Switch. We already know it's a portable experience. It made a great impact on the Vita, so why not have it on the Switch as well? Of course, I'd love to get all of the games on the Switch. But let's get started by porting games 1 and 2, as those have already been localized. Up next, of course, Square Enix has been making waves on the Nintendo Switch. They put out Octopath Traveler, the Final Fantasy games are coming to the Switch, but yet has it been announced that the Kingdom Hearts games will be coming to Switch. Now, I get the issue with Kingdom Hearts 3, maybe the Switch doesn't have the horsepower to make that happen, but if Square Enix could somehow concise that game for the Switch, that'd be great. But at the very least, you've released the Kingdom Hearts collections. They're essentially PS2 and 3DS games. They can definitely be ran on the Nintendo Switch, and they should come over to the Nintendo Switch. I'd love to get that Ultimate Collection that compiled 1.5 and 2.5. So many great games as a part of that. I don't see why Dream Drop Distance couldn't be on the Switch as well. A lot of potential with all of the Kingdom Hearts titles coming to Switch. Would be great to have those games on Nintendo's platform.
Kingdom Hearts, fill me with the power of darkness.
Those creatures that attacked you are after the Keyblade.
Next up is a title that's been long rumored, and that is Persona 5. Now, of course, Joker made his presence felt in Super Smash Bros., but we actually want to see Persona make the transition over to the Nintendo Switch. We know that there's some sort of new Persona 5 project in the works with Persona 5 Arc. Could that be accompanied with a Nintendo Switch version? I know I would love that. And given that many will attest to the fact that Persona 5 is the best JRPG of all time, I know the best of statement is thrown around a lot, but with Persona 5, there is a legitimate debate to be had that this is the best JRPG of all time. There's just so much to do in this game, so much depth in its gameplay. The presentation is fantastic. The storytelling is top-notch. There's not enough good things to be said about Persona 5, and to have it on the Switch, to have it on the go, that would be terrific. And hopefully we do get Persona 5 or whatever that is. I imagine it's an enhanced version of the original game, but to see that on the Switch, that'd be terrific.
Let's focus and get moving. This is the best part of being a Phantom Thief. Yep, good stuff. I'm satisfied.
Spotted a shadow. Let's get it, Joker.
The shadows are ready to kill.
Moving on from that, Tales of Vesperia was recently released on the Nintendo Switch, so that definitely opens the floodgates for all of the other Tales of games. Starting off, I would like to see Tales of Berseria also come to the Switch. I think for a long time, some people were disappointed by the Tales of games with releases like Tales of Xillia and Tales of Vesperia. Personally, I really enjoyed Xillia 1 and 2. However, it seemed like some people were disappointed by those games. However, it all turned around with Tales of Berseria, one of the best Tales of games in the entire franchise. Berseria retains your traditional Tales combat, but what it gets right is the storytelling, the characters. That is top notch. It really moves away from a lot of your typical JRPG cliches, so that was very nice. It's not like Berseria is a visually demanding game. I'm sure they can get it running on the Switch, and it seems like Vesperia is doing very well commercially on the Switch, so I think Bandai Namco is going to be very open to bringing other Tales of titles to the platform. Moving on from that, speaking of Bandai Namco, one of the tremendous JRPGs that they published was, of course, Ninokuni, Wrath of the White Witch, and I'd love to see that game on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'd love to see Ninokuni 2 as well, but honestly speaking, I think Wrath of the White Witch is the better game when you compare it to Ninokuni 2. Wrath of the White Witch just had a better story. Some of the gameplay elements I thought were superior as well. Ninokuni 2 is a good game. Ninokuni 1 is legitimately an excellent game. Of course, as I mentioned, great story here. The presentation is just what you'd expect. It is fantastic. epic. The characters are great. Many see this game to be the best JRPG on the PlayStation 3 that was ever released on the PS3, and I'm pretty much in agreement with that. We have yet to hear any rumblings about Ninokuni making the transition over to the Nintendo Switch, but considering that Ninokuni 2 was released on PC as well, I think Bandai Namco is open to the idea of releasing these games on other platforms. Moving on from that, I'd love to see some Vanillaware games make their way over to the Nintendo Switch, starting off with Muramasa the Demon Blade. Now, I go to Muramasa the Demon Blade because this game had its original release on a Nintendo platform with a Nintendo Wii, so why not make a comeback on the Nintendo Switch? Now, Muramasa the Demon Blade was also released on the PlayStation Vita, a superior version of that, so I'd love to see that version come over to the Switch, but the game itself is your Vanillaware flair. It's a side-scrolling action RPG, great presentation, great aesthetics. Story's pretty interesting, gets a little bit repetitive at times, but I would say overall a lot of fun, and would be great to see this one, and would love to see the other Vanillaware titles in Odin Sphere Left Tracer and Dragon's Crown Pro also come to the Switch. Moving on from that, of course, one of Nintendo's own IPs that's a huge JRPG franchise is Xenoblade Chronicles, and it would be fantastic to see the Wii U release in Xenoblade Chronicles X make its way over to the Switch. Now, why it's so important to get this one over to the Switch is because, let's be real, this game was exclusive to the Nintendo Wii U. The Wii U just wasn't the most successful platform in the world, and having a game of the caliber of Xenoblade Chronicles X relegated to a platform like the Wii U till the end of time would be such a disservice to this game because the game is so good. Gameplay was great, visuals were pretty solid, and you had a vast world to explore. There were some issues with some of the quest designs, but overall, Xenoblade Chronicles X was such a good game. We have Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Of course, I'd like to see the original Xenoblade Chronicles, but most importantly, Chronicles X absolutely needs to make its way over to the Switch at some point.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Moving on from that, I also want to give a mention to a 3DS JRPG franchise in Bravely Default. Now, the studio behind Bravely Default also recently just put out Octopath Traveler, and that game was great, so why not bring out Bravely Default and Bravely Second over to the Nintendo Switch? Bravely Default was received extremely well on the 3DS, as was Bravely Second, and these games at this point have been kind of forgotten about, and that's a shame. At this point, I don't think the 3DS is making much of an impact going into 2019, 2020. The 3DS is being phased out, and if you do want to do a Bravely Third at some point and you do release it on the Nintendo Switch, well, some gamers are just going to see it as the third game in the series. They're not up to date with Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and they're not going to have a lot of attachment to it as a franchise. I'd love to see both games on the Switch in a collection, even if you do want to release the game separately, because let's be honest, people are probably going to pay a high price for them because of the quality of games that they are. Whatever the case may be, I just want to see these games on the Nintendo Switch. It makes perfect sense, so make it happen.
Bravely Second. Accept your fate. Got this one.
Moving on from that, one game that I really want to see get a second chance is Nier. Now, I'm not talking about Nier Automata because I just don't know if that game will be able to be translated onto the Nintendo Switch, but the very first Nier title can definitely make its way over to the Switch, and this is a game that deserves a second chance. Nier was released on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it was received okay. However, I think the major issue with Nier was from a visual and gameplay standpoint, and I think if they make some minor adjustments, that can be worked out. And what you do have in Nier is a great story and one of the best soundtracks that you're ever gonna hear in a video game, and for those elements of the game to be forgotten about in the annals of the JRPG history, that would be a shame. Of course, Nier as a franchise has had a lot more attention around it because of Nier Automata, but the first Nier game really doesn't get the recognition it deserves. I think with a few adjustments, it could be a tremendous JRPG, and to see it on the Switch, it would be great.
We shall become as one. Stay away from my daughter.
And lastly, I want to give mention to a very good Nintendo Wii JRPG, The Last Story. The Last Story was one of the most accessible JRPGs of last generation. The story was great, and the combat was probably the star element of The Last Story. That was just done really, really well, and The Last Story is another one of those games. It released on the Wii towards the end of its life, and it didn't release to much fanfare, but those that did play the game really enjoyed it. But again, to have it stuck on the Nintendo Wii forever, that would be a shame. Let's give it a second chance on the Nintendo Switch. Release it at around a $29.99 or $39.99 price point. Maybe that's asking a little bit too much, because let's be real, these Nintendo Switch game prices are sometimes a little bit crazy, but whatever. The Last Story on the Switch would be awesome. So that's gonna conclude this video. Honestly, I could go on and on. There are so many great JRPGs that I would love to see released on the Nintendo Switch. If you go back to like the PS2 days of JRPGs, there are games like Rogue Galaxy and Dark Cloud that I would love to see on the Switch as well, and I'm sure there are other games that I could go over as well. This is just to start a list off, and hopefully sooner rather than later we see each of these games make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. I know you guys have your own opinion, so sound off in the comment section down below on what JRPGs you want to see come to the Switch. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.